In 2016, Eddie Griffin said, if Trump wins, I'm moving to Africa. Apparently very slowly, because in Trump's 4 years, he only got as far as Van Nuys. George Lopez once said that if Trump won, he won't have to worry about immigration. We'll all go back. George Lopez still here. And it doesn't look like the migrant traffic is going back. Gosh, it almost seems like the world is full of suffering, intolerance, and oppression on a scale we can't imagine. But that can't be true, because if it was, we'd be protesting.
Bill Maher just delivered a sharp criticism of what he calls woke Hollywood and its political allies. And the reaction has been hard to ignore.
If, for your exile, you do wind up in some comparatively luxurious place like Canada or Japan or the UK, not that they want you. At best, you'll be trading a bunch of stuff you hate about this country for a bunch of stuff you'll soon hate about your new home.
Think about all the celebrities who said they would leave the country if Trump won the election. Years have passed, and many of them are still here. That is one of the points Bill Maher brings up. He does not hold back. His criticism is direct, sharp, and impossible to miss. If you enjoy videos like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And let's jump right into the story.
If you run for office in America, you have to want to live here. I bring this up because there was a video that made the rounds recently by a woman who said she was a proud progressive and was running for state representative in New Hampshire, and yet posted this.
Is there a place we can move that people would be happy to have us, that we're not gentrifying or colonizing? I don't want to be a problem, but I need to get the out of this country.
Of this country. The one you want to be elected to a leadership position in? What was your campaign slogan? America, a shining on a hill?
How many times have we seen politicians, especially Democrats, make dramatic statements about wanting to leave the country, only to stay in the same positions of power? Bill Maher argues that this kind of contradiction is hard to ignore. On one hand, some politicians describe America as a country with serious problems and say things have become so bad that they can barely tolerate it. On the other hand, they continue serving in government and working within the same system they criticize. Maher says that, in his view, this comes across as hypocritical. He also argues that many critics paint a much darker picture of America than they believe is fair. According to him, in the effort to criticize Donald Trump and the Republican Party, some political messages become exaggerated and rely more on emotion than facts. From Maher's perspective, the conversation stops being about honest debate and becomes more about shaping public opinion by focusing heavily on the negatives, while giving much less attention to the positives.
Now, does America have big problems? Yes, I've often cited the America sucks list. Things like being 54th in the world in infant mortality behind Cuba, 19th in literacy behind Russia, 72nd in female representation in government behind Iraq. A lot of work to do here. And is it possible for a country to lose itself so much that leaving it is justified? Yes, but we're not there yet, not by a long shot, and we don't need quitters. We need people who will stay and fix it. Maybe the problem isn't that America isn't worth defending. Maybe the problem is that lots of people today are entitled whiners who have no perspective and no idea how good they have it.
Maher does not hold back here. He strongly criticizes politicians who make these kinds of statements, saying they sound like people who complain about a country while continuing to enjoy the benefits that come with living and working in it. He argues that there is a clear contradiction in constantly criticizing the United States while still taking advantage of the opportunities it offers. Maher also points out that America's position in the world did not happen by accident. He acknowledges that the country has flaws, as every nation does, but he says it also has one of the world's most influential democratic systems, a powerful economy, a strong military, and an election process that, despite its critics, is still viewed by many around the world as an important example. In his view, those strengths are a big reason why millions of people continue to come to the United States looking for better opportunities. Maher believes that when political leaders focus almost entirely on the country's problems to score political points, it can seem less like honest criticism and more like a carefully crafted message designed to shape public opinion rather than reflect the full picture.
59% of self-identified liberals say there have been times when they considered leaving America for good, like after NBC canceled The West Wing. I don't get it. You want so badly for every immigrant to come to this country and experience the good life, but somehow it's so terrible you want to leave?
Exactly. Maher says this is where the contradiction becomes hard to ignore. On one side, he argues that many liberals support policies that make it easier for immigrants to come to the United States, often talking about protection, inclusion, and opportunity. In his view, those policies send the message that America is still a country where people can build a better future. But on the other side, he points to public statements from some well-known figures who have said they wanted to leave the country. Maher believes those two messages do not fit together. He asks that if the country is truly as bad as some people describe it, why encourage more people to come? And if America still offers so many opportunities, why talk about leaving? He says this inconsistency raises more questions than it answers. According to Maher, the issue goes beyond politics. He believes it reflects a deeper way of thinking, and he argues that his next point explains why he sees it as such an important issue.
Just like there's a long list of liberal celebrities who swear they'll go if a Republican is elected, and no one ever does. Miley Cyrus once said, "I am moving if Trump is my president. I don't say things I don't mean." Here she is looking miserable, having to endure America at the Grammys last Sunday.
When it comes to celebrities, Maher believes many of them simply repeat the same political messages they hear from others. He argues that too often they support popular causes without stopping to question them or think through the issues for themselves. In his view, when a new woke issue starts getting attention, many famous people quickly join in. And when politicians describe the economy in a certain way, he says some celebrities repeat those same talking points just as strongly. Maher believes this can make it seem as if they are following a script instead of sharing their own independent opinions. That is where much of his frustration comes from. He argues that people with such large audiences should bring more thoughtful discussion, ask tougher questions, and be willing to challenge popular ideas instead of simply repeating them. Instead, he believes many public figures end up passing along the same political messages without adding much of their own. And if you think Maher has finished making his point, think again. According to him, he is only getting started.
I guess she flew back from Tajikistan. In 2016, Eddie Griffin said, "If Trump wins, I'm moving to Africa." Apparently very slowly, because in Trump's 4 years, he only got as far as Van Nuys. George Lopez once said that if Trump won, he won't have to worry about immigration. We'll all go back. George Lopez still here. And it doesn't look like the migrant traffic is going back.
Critics like Maher argue that many celebrities seem to focus on one main goal, making Donald Trump look as bad as possible. They believe that this has become the way some public figures approach almost every political issue. Maher says what stands out to him is the difference in how some celebrities react, depending on who is in office. In his view, when a Democrat is president, controversies often receive much less criticism, and in some cases even praise. But when Trump or other Republicans are involved, he argues that the tone changes completely. He says the language quickly becomes much stronger, with terms like fascist and authoritarian being used far more often. According to Maher and others who share this view, that does not reflect consistent standards. They believe it shows a pattern of reacting differently based on politics, rather than applying the same principles to everyone. Maher says this is one of the biggest inconsistencies that he continues to point out.
Then there's all the TikToks telling Americans things like,
I think the new American dream is to leave.
I'm 18 years old and I escaped America.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to escape America. That wall we're always debating isn't to keep you in. The New Republic just ran a story about the vulnerable minorities who want to flee America, including the author, a gay man trapped in the dystopian homophobic hellscape that is New York City. I wonder if he knows that there are 66 countries where just being gay is a crime.
Maher argues that some political comments about wanting to leave the United States can sound more dramatic than realistic. He says that when some people talk as if they are trapped in America or have no way to leave, the comparison does not match reality. In his view, the United States is not a country that prevents its citizens from leaving. People who truly want to move to another country are generally free to do so, as long as they meet the legal, financial, and immigration requirements of the place they want to live. Maher believes there are no barriers keeping people from leaving, if that is really their choice. That is why, in his opinion, these public statements can sometimes seem more like political messaging than genuine plans. He says they leave people wondering whether the comments reflect a real desire to move or are simply meant to make a political point. For Maher, the real question is not whether people are allowed to leave, but whether those who make these statements actually follow through.
If for your exile, you do wind up in some comparatively luxurious place like Canada or Japan or the UK, not that they want you. At best, you'll be trading a bunch of stuff you hate about this country for a bunch of stuff you'll soon hate about your new home. It took me only 4 days in Amsterdam to learn that while I admire Amsterdam, I don't want to live there.
And that is the part many people often overlook. When you look through travel magazines or scroll through social media, everything can seem like a perfect dream. Beautiful beaches, clean streets, smiling people, and a lifestyle that looks effortless. It is a carefully created image designed to make a place look like a paradise. Because of that, it is easy to believe you are about to move to some perfect country that has none of the problems people talk about in America. But what does not appear in those pictures can be just as important as what does. Every country has its own challenges. There can be economic struggles, political disagreements, cultural differences, and even limits on certain freedoms depending on where you are. Those details usually do not fit into a short social media post, so they are often ignored. So yes, a place may look like a dream from the outside, but there is always a more complicated reality beneath the surface. That does not mean people should avoid exploring new places. It simply means they should look beyond the perfect postcard image and understand the full picture.
It took me only 4 days in Amsterdam to learn that while I admire Amsterdam, I don't want to live there. The buildings are cramped and shaped like needles. The food is awful. The TV's in a different language. It's wet and cold. The people are polite but cold, and they do a bunch of weird shit. The explanation for, according to my friend, was just remember they're high.
There really is no other country quite like America. And deep down, even many of its loudest critics in politics and Hollywood understand that. A lot of them have traveled around the world, spent time in other countries, and seen how different systems work in real life. They may praise certain places publicly, but the reality is usually much more complicated than the perfect image people see from the outside. Every country has different rules, different cultures, and different challenges. Something that looks exciting from far away can feel very different once you actually have to live there. That is why so many statements about leaving the country rarely turn into real moves. It is easy to say something during an emotional moment or make a strong statement when things feel frustrating, but it is a completely different thing to leave behind your entire life and adjust to a new country and a new way of living. The United States still provides a unique combination of opportunities, personal freedoms, and familiarity that many people find difficult to replace. And in the end, the fact that so many people choose to stay may say more than any public statement ever could. Despite all the criticism, many people still decide that America is where they want to be.
Italy always makes the list of great expat destinations because of all those stories on CNN about how you can buy a house in a quaint Italian village for $1, except it's not a house in the way we think of one as a structure with plumbing and electricity and a roof. When these places were built, the Leaning Tower of Pisa was still straight.
At the end of the day, Maher's main argument is not only about politics. It is about being consistent. He says you cannot keep describing a country as broken, act like it has no future, and then continue choosing to stay without people questioning that decision. Whether it is politicians making dramatic statements about leaving or celebrities repeating the same political messages, Maher argues that the same pattern keeps appearing. Strong words, but very little action. That does not mean America is perfect. It is not. But it does mean that conversations should be based on honesty instead of being built around exaggeration for attention. If a country truly had nothing good left to offer, leaving would seem like the obvious choice. Yet, Maher points out that many of the same people who criticize the country continue living in it and benefiting from the same system they attack. Maybe that is the bigger point behind all the arguments. There is a quiet understanding that despite its problems, America still offers something valuable that makes many people want to stay. And that reality, Maher argues, speaks louder than any political message ever could. And that brings us to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.